All right. Can you see my screen okay?
Uh, okay. So for our next speaker, we are going to welcome Carol Chiang, who is the Director of Corporate Development and Innovation at IIX Care, where she leads innovative healthcare initiatives. She is an occupational therapist and age tech expert. Carol founded Evolving Homes for Aging in Place Solutions and collaborates with the Toyota Research Institute and the MIT AgeLab. Please welcome Carol Chiang.
Hi, how's it going? Let me see here. Oh, and now I can't share this one in here. All right. Christina, can you see my screen okay?
No,
I'm
not yet.
only seeing right now this front one.
Okay, they're going to spotlight you, so give us one hot second.
Okay.
Can you try sharing your screen now?
Um,
There you go.
you good?
Yes,
All
we
right.
see it now.
Perfect. Let me just pull this over here. Okay, awesome. So, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what kind of technologies can be able to help people age in place. And as Christina, introduced, I've been in OT for about 25 years, and I'm going to talk a bit about global solutions. So that's why I have these flags up here. And just to not make it confusing, I live in the US. I'm Canadian by background, and my parents are from Taiwan. So, so here's our little connection. But founder and CEO of Evolving Homes. I have my real estate license. I do a lot of corporate consulting, educational webinars like this because it's really important to send that message out there. So, what are those skills that you need for aging in place? I mean, when you think about it, people think sometimes only environmental, but occupational therapists look at everything as a whole. So, have to think about how can you take care of yourself? So, dressing, bathing, grooming. How can you take care of your home? That's cooking, cleaning, laundry, yard work. What about all the responsibilities outside the home? You have grocery shopping, doctor's visits, banking. And then your social needs. So the things that make life fun, going to church, being with your family, volunteering. So you have to think about all these things when you are going to stay at home. So let's talk a little bit about some of those technologies for just taking care of yourself. So this is one called Comfort Linen. I'm going to show you a little video, textile tech. People don't think about this right off the
Okay,
bat.
so this is a brand called Comfort Linen, and what it does specifically is that it allows, it decreases friction. So you can see how here it is a satin square, and so that's like the turning of your hips, and it makes it easier to flip over and to get in and out of the bed. And right here, it is like a traditional fabric. Actually, it's a little bit stickier, and that's so that you don't slip off of the bed. And then on the foot side, it's also the traditional fabric so that your feet don't slip if you're trying to lift your butt cheeks up or whatever. But I actually got a travel sheet one where you could put it down there also if you needed it. Try to get in here. All right. And hey, turning, yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like I'm in a slip and slide. This is crazy.
So, bed sleeping is really important. And this is another example of technology right now that is being developed. It's not just about your mattress, not just about how you turn at the top. This is, a company that has a HEPA filter underneath. So you're creating really good air quality that you breathe at nighttime, but also temperature control because older adults tend to be a little bit hot. And you don't want people waking up constantly at night because then you're not getting good quality sleep. When you're thinking about bathing, what is a lot of people have difficulty with getting their foot over a tub. So this Canadian company has a way for you to, bring the tub higher so that you could pull this down, sit down like you would get into a car, spin inside and pull the other part up. So, these are some of those walk-in style tubs, except this one doesn't require you to step in. You could just sit and spin. This body dryer is really interesting because a lot of times when you get older, it is really difficult for you to be able to, dry your skin without having a skin tear. And this is also, I wrote up here, independent and assisted to remind people that it's not just about what you can do by yourself, but also about how you can make it easier for your caregiver. So caregivers a lot of times will get back problems trying to lean over in these weird positions, trying to dry off feet. These are things that can help that biomechanic a little bit better. So the body dryer literally just, it's like a big hair dryer on the wall and dries you off. So no need for towels or drying off in some strange positions. And that one is out of Spain. So people ask me all the time, well, what do you do about a shower? I can't change it. So I love this because to me, this is like Legos. You can just they send you these 4 or 5 pieces, and suddenly, in this one we set it up inside of their dining room. So you just put these pieces together, and the next thing you know, and you can get a little ramp for it, and you can pull somebody up there, and you've got a hose that gets water from the kitchen and the drainage goes out the window. So, everything is possible. Can be very easy. So dressing is really important because this is something that can get harder as you get older with fine motor problems, with like lack of range of motion. So Joe and Bella make clothing that are oftentimes like they have the seam right here so they can put it on easily in a wheelchair, but it looks nice. And the whole point of it is because, there is adaptive clothing from 20, 30 years ago, but they're ugly and they look like that and they cover you. We want something that looks good. And so, and there's another brand that has a similar thing. The button-up shirt is really important for a man. They feel like, they were working again. And you can buy magnet ones, you can buy magnet zippers. I love the spring rose one as well because people don't think a lot about those under things. So women a lot of times will go without a bra because they can't, they might not be able to hook it in the back, or they can't get it on over their head because rotator cuff problems are common after 65. So the reason I like this is because the strap is at the bottom and you can step into it like a dress and pull it up instead. So just a different way to consider being able to do something. And again, the focus is on beauty and making it pretty and nice and not adaptive looking. So this is a really interesting idea
These
about
are height
toilet arms that
adjustable support
change
arms.
height,
As you can see, the
direction.
support arms easily move up and down to give each user their own customizable fit. No longer will people of different sizes and mobility levels be forced to use the support arms in the same position. Height adjustable support
So
arms
there's
are
lots
safer
of different
and
kinds
will
of
keep
things
users
like this.
independent when using the restroom. They are excellent for fall prevention.
Lots and lots of different bathroom ideas that can be adjusted for each person. So what about taking care of your home? Because it's not just about taking care of your body. What do we do? What could we do to help us be able to take care of our environment? So this one is this similar company. And what I like about this is that, if you were in a wheelchair, you might need a space a little bit lower. So could all your cabinets come up and down and your counters? And this is also it's not just for people with disabilities. Think about somebody whose husband is 6'2" and you are 5 something, or children, somebody who is like shorter than you are, taller than you are. It's not ergonomic. Again, we're talking about back pain here, like leaning over constantly in these weird ideas. So cabinets and countertops, they can all be adjusted to go up and down for better access, better biomechanics. You see, if she had shoulder problems, no problem. She can take care of this easily. And they have really interesting designs where, this one is just going straight up and down, but you can have ones that come out towards you. You can have ones where the drawer pops down below it a little bit more. And I'm just gonna pull it forward and see if you can see here. See, it just drops right out of the bottom. And I've seen this also with Panasonic makes a spice rack that does things like this, Revishelf. This is something that's really useful for everybody. So lots of companies get in there and start developing this. So Cooking safety is probably one of the number one concerns about staying at home. People worry about fires, which they should. This is a big deal. So how could we keep somebody safe while they're trying to cook if they forget or they get distracted? So iGuard is really interesting. This is about $500, and it works by motion detecting. So if it sees that there's no motion near the stove after a certain amount of time, it just cuts off the supply, the electricity to it, so that there can't be any potential problems. Now, Home Kitchen I love because this is a smart knob. So this is connected to your app. And so if you can check to see if your house is, if the stove is still on remotely. So, and you can turn it off. So it's not just that you can see it, but you can have action after it. You can take action and make sure that your house is safe. So, and you could get alerts to say, hey, it's been on for a little while. Do you want to look at this? And I think about this as, again, these are not for disabilities. When my kids were little and I was busy and I have 10,000 things I'm doing, and as I pull out of my driveway, I'm thinking, oh, shoot, is the stove still on? So these are ways to manage this for all ages, but it's safety for everyone. What about doing all of those household chores? Sometimes people think, well, I can't stand, or my legs hurt, my back hurts, I'm worried about falls. I think this is a really interesting concept where it's not an office chair. It looks like an office chair, which is that cosmetic piece in this, but it can go up and down and you can roll around and be able to still take care of all those household things without worrying about falling. And that one is made by Vila. What about if you hurt yourself? So if you have surgery or you need somebody to help bring you something. Well, I love this idea that you have robotics that are like a dog, Labrador. So you can set up bus stops, you can have it, maybe parked at the garage, you unload your groceries, you send it to the kitchen, it meets you at the kitchen. It takes it to your lunch, to the living room. This is just one of those really simple ideas that now you can use at home. What about non-Wi-Fi smart homes? We love smart home ideas, but smart homes have problems with Wi-Fi connection. This doesn't work and that doesn't work. Well, Lotus has this really neat connection where this is like a ring that you would wear with a button, and then a panel that you just magnetically attach onto the electrical area. Fast, really easy. The install is literally, chook, and then now you're controlling whatever devices are connected to that electrical panel, just on and off. Very simple, very easy, not scary at all for people to have to manage. Now, it's not okay to just stay at your house. What about getting out in the community? You want to leave and see people and do things, live your life. So, first of all, let's think about, my spinal cord patients or anybody who is having their hands full, they need a way to get in and out. And automatic door openers are a pretty standard thing that we use for spinal cord patients to be able to open and close it automatically. But if you think about somebody who's in a wheelchair or somebody's in a walker, mobility devices make it hard for you to get close to the door, grab the handle, back up, and open it up. So this is really convenient. These are, made for outdoor spaces, but also for sliding door ones. And what's really interesting is if you have a pet and this pet needs to go out, but you're tired and you're not there, well, it has pet mode and it can detect if the dog is wanting to go out and open the door for the dog and close the door for the dog. Now, what about getting in and out? So a lot of times people are worried about putting ramps in their front yard because they think it might target them as somebody who could be taken advantage of. An older adult lives there. Well, this is a really interesting idea. Ooh, it's a little bit loud. And then after that, it just returns back to its normal. So isn't that great? It has like the ability to just go into steps and then use the ramp, pull it up. So that's called a vertical platform lift. All right. Now, what about like when you are out in the world? So this is like interesting because people think about, I don't want to use a wheelchair or walker, but I need the help. It makes me look old. Well, I love this idea that you could have a bike that you're just kind of walking and pedaling around. And I've seen this a lot. Mayo Clinic is not far from my house, and people really, I see them all the time, and they are just easy to understand that this could be something that is useful in your life. But how about if you need a little bit of extra push? So Camino makes something where it has electricity powered walkers. So we have powered bikes. So why not a powered walker? Think about going up a hill or getting to a place where I'm a little bit tired. I could use a little help. Now, if you need a little bit more help, what about a wheelchair that can go off-road, go anywhere you want? This is something that people use to get on the sand, in snow, and they have whole communities that will just go out in these big giant groups and go on adventures. But when you're out in the community, you still have personal needs. So how do we manage some of these things? One of the clever things that I thought about Free to Go is, she thought about this idea that when you go to restaurants and you go to your friend's house, you can't control whether they have, higher toilets or grab bars or something in there that could help you. And so she created a seat that was higher, that was hidden inside of the walker. So you can just pull that seat up and down, and that way you're not embarrassed if something, if you get stuck on the toilet. And actually, she created this because her mother couldn't get up off of the toilet when they went to a restaurant, and she was worried about her. And, you lock the door behind you. How are you getting in there to help them? It's very embarrassing. And this one is called this is a medication reminder that is a smart home one that is, I'm sorry, it is a non-Wi-Fi one. So meaning it's using cellular to keep track of when you need to take your medications, and it's small enough to put inside your bag and just take with you. And we have, this is really, really amazing for Parkinson's patients who take medications for every 4 hours in order to move. So if you're stuck to having to be at your house every 4 hours because your medication container is too big to bring with you, this is an option to be able to get out in the world. Now, social engagement's important. You want to connect with your family, be able to see things and travel. A lot of people like to travel, but travel takes a lot of work, money, stress. It's hard. So there's a US company that has this really neat solution where they have a guide on the ground who's your guide. They take them wherever you want them to go, show them whatever you want, and you go together. So as a family, but virtually. And, you know, silly things like, okay, I want you to walk down the street and make a left-hand turn. Oh, wait, I want you to go into that store. That's a really cool little souvenir I want you to buy for me and send it to me, right? So just a totally different way to think about how you could travel but still stay at your house. And game board is, this idea that you could play with, chess or any kind of games. They have a lot of them. It's just a virtual board that you have in your living room, but you could play with somebody remotely. So somebody, 2 states over could be still playing with you, but it feels like you're together. Now, if you want to try to combine the exercise part with the traveling part, you could do virtual cycling. And Bike Labyrinth from the Netherlands has this amazing system where it's interactive. It's one, the graphics are ridiculous because they film everything right there. It's amazing. You feel like you're right there, but also gives you choice. So you get to an intersection, and do you want to turn left to go to the cathedral? Do you want to turn right to go up to the library? So and people really love this for dementia clients for reminiscence because they get in there and they're like, I grew up on this street and I know exactly where that is. And I remember this is on this side. And what's really neat is that you can actually film your own routes. So if you wanted to film somebody's real house and real street, for them to be able to see it again if they are in a community and they can't go to where they grew up or where they lived, you could do that, film it, and then you can put it in there yourself. So, fall prevention, this is important to talk about because this is one of the primary reasons people aren't able to stay at home. So, how can we do that? Of course, we know exercise and keeping your body strong. But how about a balance scale that you step on every morning and it tells you, it measures what your balance is like, gives you a score, and then recommends exercises that you should do that day. So you're giving an objective way to say, hey, look, today, your balance is not so good. I think you need to do a little bit more work today. And it helps you track that every day. And I know that there's another one, another startup in France. Same idea. It's a bath mat. You step onto the bath mat. It's a smart bath mat. It's checking your balance. So this is an important area of development, and people are really, looking to see what they can do. What about now? We can't prevent falls completely. You will fall down. I mean, you may trip on something, you don't have to be older to fall on the floor and trip over the dog or the toys that it left in the middle of the night. But how could you prevent going to the hospital because of a fall? So the changing the flooring is a really interesting idea. This company in the US is their primary business is creating the headers inside of cars. So almost everybody has that in their car already, and they supply to the US military for all the Humvees. So if there is an IED explosion, that what happens is that as soon as there's impact, it gets hard. The surface is soft, I'm sorry, and then it absorbs the impact so that there's no injuries. And there's a similar one in Australia, a little bit different with foam, but they really have a really neat video where they take a raw egg and they throw it down onto the surface and it doesn't break. And then of course they throw it onto the ground and it shatters. So just to show you that even though you do fall, you can not be injured in it. So if you do fall though, how are you getting back up? So this is a really neat walker where the seat is a seat, to help you with your daily activities, kind of like the Vila chair, but also it goes all the way down to the floor. So if you did fall on the floor, that you could bring it down to the floor, you push your body into it, and then you push a button and it pulls you back up again. So also something very important if you are going to leave the house in your community and you don't want to feel embarrassed if I fall and I can't get up. Now, so let's talk about those future technologies. I mean, these are all fun and everything, but what I'm really interested in is what are we developing and what is something that might be, only available B2B, not B2C yet. So, of course, robotics is huge in rehab. You look at Cyberdyne out of Japan, and they are teaching people to walk again. But how could we do this in the home? So Rebless is actually made, it's from H Robotics, and you have this device at your house. You have a therapist controlled that's on the app and helping you to go through those exercises. So you don't need to go to a fancy rehab space. You could potentially do your rehab at home as well. What about monitoring? So, lights, these Nobi lights are really interesting because they look just like a lamp that you would have everywhere. But there are little cameras and eyes in there, and they're monitoring and they're watching. And what I like about this is that they're recording, because they're recording things, you can actually go back in time and look to see, well, what precipitated that fall? Did I trip on something? What was it that made me do that? And you can analyze a little bit more about what happened. And then, of course, there's just radar detection. This passive monitoring is really, I think, the future of staying at home is with just understanding, well, are they upright or on the floor? Did they wake up yet? Did they access their medication container? Did they eat? What did they do? And so when you can gather all this information and put it into a database for somebody to understand, what's actually going on in that house if you're not there. Toileting is probably one of my favorite things to talk about because occupational therapists talk about all those self-care things. And it's something that people don't always want to talk a lot about, but it's actually the area of development that I think has the most promise. So if you look at something like Kasana, this is every single time that you're sitting down, it's gathering your heart rate, your blood pressure. It's telling you, and it's recording these things. So One of the things to think about is it's not important necessarily to see what it is at that moment, but it is important if you can have all that information, all that data flow into a database to look at trends and see, well, this morning your blood pressure is lower than it was yesterday. Maybe, you need a phone call from a nurse to say, hi, it's time for you to come in because we detected low blood pressure. Toy Labs is really fascinating to me because urinary tract infections is one of the primary reasons that lead to falls. What happens with older adults is that they stop drinking enough water. Maybe they don't feel the thirst anymore. It can lead to a urinary tract infection, which then can lead to altered mental status, or that they have a fall. So how could we prevent this or get to know whether or not somebody is dehydrated? Well, Toy Labs is analyzing your urine and your bowel movements every single time you go. And again, connected to a back end to a healthcare professional who could potentially say, listen, it looks like you're dehydrated. Maybe you need to drink more water, or you have a urinary tract infection. We need to see you to get you on antibiotics so that we don't have weakness and falls and keep you out of the hospital. Empower is really interesting because one of the biggest problems in a community is the problems with wiping for a caregiver, the problems with loss of dignity for the patient. So this is something that can has the ability to wash and then dry and potentially spray a barrier cream to keep everything nice and clean afterwards as well. All right. And lastly, here we've got diagnosis via voice. This has been a big thing where people are using your voice to diagnose things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. But, way beyond this, there is a lot of development going on in the areas of voice to detect things. And so you could potentially even be able to just call somebody on the phone and say, you know what? You don't sound good. Let's do a little bit of diagnostics behind that and see what's going on. So that is a lot of stuff we talked about. And in every category of it, there's probably at least 10 or 15 of the different versions of them available worldwide. And so that's why my global partner IAX and I are creating a hub where we'll be able to load all of those different solutions into one location so that we can figure it out and see, and more importantly, see whether something is validated if they have the clinical information in there that can help you make a decision of which one of these 10 to 15 fit the best for your situation or are like the most from healthcare professionals or, that users really rave about them. So I encourage you guys to, you can scan the QR code, pre-register first so you can try this tool and see. All right. So we are on the last slide here, and I welcome any questions, or you can email me. And I've got Claire here. Claire, you have a question for me?
Thank you so much, Carol, for this impressive presentation. I have just one question, maybe not even like a question, because earlier today we have another speaker talking about the inclusive housing in Taiwan. So for that part, let's share some experience in Taiwan now, because nowadays many people, younger generation, leave their hometown and move to the city. So only the elder parents living in the hometown
Mm,
alone.
yes, of
So
course.
yeah, so how technology can support is of course that could be an option. However, many of them are not the technology user or technology fan. So
Mm.
in that case, would you have some idea or some experience that you could share with us?
So, two things. One, right now, I think that people are developing all these passive things where you don't need to have the technology. It's like a one time you connect it and it's good. Two, though, another area of development is tech support. So here in the US, you have there's a company called Can where they can literally walk you through that any step-by-step problem. And that is really helpful. Or there is another one called Carevocacy where you literally can text the question, how do I turn on this printer? And then it will send you, it uses AI to search the internet for like, what brand of printer do you have? And what are the instructions? And it sends it directly to your phone. So take out the Wi-Fi aspect of it, take out these things. And that tech support piece is really important because that is something that we talk about all the time with clinicians who recommend things. It's thinking about, well, what are those barriers to technology that they can't do? How can I support it? So these startups that are addressing it are important, but also really understanding who your parent is. So you get 80-year-olds who love their phone and ones who say, I'm not interested in any smart home technology. So then you need to be looking at things like dose health for medication reminders, like so using cellular, using something that's just a little bit more dummy proof. Just push on it and we're done. I, oop, I'm gonna.
No problem. Yeah, so I will leave one question for our audience to ask.
Yep.
It doesn't look like we have any yet.
Okay.
So if anyone has any other questions, we'd love to take them now, or we can collect them at the end.
Sounds like a plan. My email is on the screen. You can email me as well or connect with me on LinkedIn. This is a good way for us to all get together and be global and, work together to find those solutions for each country because every person is different, every culture is different, every even zone is different if you live in the city versus if you live in the country. So you have to think like an occupational therapist and think personalization. What is good for that person and their habits and preferences and personality?
Okay, so we do have a question from our team member. It
Mhm.
is, are there any barriers or enablers that you have observed in your work that drives or blocks smart healthcare or assistive technology adoption in North American households, specifically or particularly among elderly and special needs populations?
Any barriers to that? Is that the question?
Yes, barriers or
Yeah.
enablers that you have observed.
Yeah, I do think like the Wi-Fi aspect of it is a huge barrier because if your Wi-Fi goes down or something, technology is still glitchy. And what's tech support guys, what do they tell you to do? What's the first thing they tell you to do? All right, like restart your computer or like take that app off of your computer and re-download it again. Well, that is a huge barrier. And that frustration to me, I get frustrated and I'm more used to this. So imagine somebody who doesn't have that experience and doesn't really want to learn. It's not important to them, which is why I think, it is important to really match the correct type of technology to the type of user and provide them with the support on the back end so they don't get frustrated and it goes into a drawer never to be used again.
Great, thank you for that answer.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Carol. We are so happy to have you to share your insight and your experience with us. And we are looking forward to maybe invite you to come back to Taiwan
I
this
would love that. You
year.
know that, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. Then we will have a much more thing to discover, and of course that we can have a further discussion how we can support Taiwan to get a better and more inclusive environment for people.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Carol.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
We will take a short break and we'll come back at 9:10. So stay tuned and we will be back. Thank you.